tonight. She wants to end the primaries with more pledged delegates, more superdelegates, and more wins.
That's why we call it Super Tuesday, the final Super Tuesday this coming Tuesday. Stand by. We're waiting for the first results to come out of Puerto Rico. We're going to bring you those results as soon as we get them. We're live here in the CNN Election Center. Much more right gender. Listen to just a few of the times Donald Trump has raised eyebrows.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
I view a person who's flat-chested is very hard to be a 10, okay?
Right.
I mean, it has to be extraordinary. You have to have the face of Vivian Lee to be a 10.
Exactly.
If you're flat-chested.
All right, let's bring in our CNN political commentators. Bill Press and Donna Brazil are with us. Also, Donald Trump supporter Scotty Nell Hughes and Hillary Clinton supporter Hillary Rosen. Bill, Donald Trump catching, as you know, lots of criticism right now for his comments about this federal judge's Hispanic Mexican heritage. Called him a Mexican, saying that he would not be fairly treated. Also, he suggested today by a Muslim judge here in the United States. Both the House Speaker, the Senate Majority Leader, they're all scolding Donald Trump for saying that. How much of a damage has Trump caused himself because of those comments?
Well, I don't think you could start off a presidential campaign in a worse way or in worse shape than Donald Trump has since he secured or became the presumed nominee just about a week ago. And you know, on the judge, I think it's very important to remember that he's attacking this judge. And this is not the judge's political views, or this is not anything to do with presidential politics. This has to do with a lawsuit against him for defrauding people. This is his money on the line, right? This is his reputation on the line, nothing to do with his presidential campaign, which makes it all the more disgusting. But I think what we're seeing is, the last few days, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Bob Corker, all these leading Republicans now, the most they're willing to say is, all right, I'll vote for the nominee of the party, but they're running away from Donald Trump as fast as they can because of those racist remarks.
Donna, the word racist is being used a lot involving what Donald Trump has said about this federal judge. People are accusing Donald Trump of being a racist. What do you think he is trying to achieve here?
You know, back in February when we had this conversation about Mr. Trump's statement about David Duke and the KKK, and I thought we, at the time, at least those of us in the media and those of us out there in the public, we were very clear that Donald Trump needed to stay away from the kind of dog whistle politics that often lead some to call you racist. And I know as a black person, whenever we use that word, people are saying, oh, you're just doing that because he's white. No. Donald Trump is now the leader of the Republican Party. He is the nominee. And I think it's very important that the words that come out of his mouth, the thoughts that he echoes, the tweets, whatever, he needs to be very clear that he has no intentions of bringing this country back and bringing many of us back to an era where we were simply judged by the color of our skin and not the content, as Dr. King said, of our character. So I do believe that he has to be very careful. And I heard early this morning from former Speaker Newt Gingrich, who also clearly denounced the words, the bigotry that's coming forth at this time, and we don't need it. It's just wrong, and it should be denounced. And I don't know this judge, but what I do know is that to become a federal judge, you have to meet some high standards, not just from the American Bar Association, but from those who nominate you and from the President of the United States who send your name forward to the United States Senate. There's nothing in this judge's background that would lend itself to anyone, including the Republican nominee, to criticize him in such harsh terms. Yeah. His ethnic background, his heritage, has nothing to do with what he's doing today and looking at these allegations against Trump University, and that should be denounced. And as Judge Curiel was nominated for the federal judge position by President Obama, but he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate without any opposition. Scotty, as you just heard, the top Republicans, whether Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, Senator Corker, Newt Gingrich, they're all distancing themselves from Donald Trump's remarks on Judge Curiel. What possible good could it be for Donald Trump doubling down, even tripling down on these remarks?
Well, and they can do that. That's the great thing about the Republican Party. We can have the diversity where we don't have to 100% agree with each other. But at the same time as they're doing that, they're also going on in line with Mr. Trump on other issues, whether it's foreign policy, economics, those sorts of things. I find it funny. Yesterday, you had a former Attorney General, Alberto Gonzales, actually wrote a great article in the Washington Post defending Mr. Trump, saying, you know what, you're right. Ethnicity alone cannot pose a conflict of interest and get the case dismissed. However, activism does. And right now, this judge does have an ethical standard that he has to uphold, that he is going to sit there and after all the attention that's been given to this case at this point, I think it's up to this judge right now to recuse himself, because it's going to look like there's no way he's going to be able to get a fair trial at this point, especially when you look at there are so many different things. And yes, he does have a history of activism, of sitting there and campaigning for Hispanics, for illegals coming across, giving them scholarships, teaching other attorneys how to be able to keep them above the law. And I think that right there does show that he is not an impartial case, and I think that's why Mr. Trump has this feeling.
Everyone stand by, because clearly there's a lot more to assess. We got to take a quick break. Upcoming flaring tempers becoming a common sight at Donald Trump rallies. We're going to talk about the impact that's having on this presidential race. Also, we'll bring you the results from Puerto Rico. We're about to get some numbers. We'll be right back. Presidential primary results that may potentially be enough to give Hillary Clinton the delegates necessary to declare victory in the battle for her party's presidential nomination. This election season has certainly been unprecedented in a number of ways. One of the most notable, the amount of violence at Donald Trump campaign rallies, and moving toward the convention, it only continues to build, at least for now. Protests at a Trump rally in San Jose Thursday, they clearly turned ugly. Fistfights broke out after some anti-Donald Trump demonstrators threw punches and eggs at Donald Trump supporters. All three candidates have criticized the violence. Listen to this.
The people that are causing that problem, they're not my people. They're people that are outside. They're thugs and they're agitators. They're bad people. I think they're sent by the Democrats.
Do you have evidence of that?
Well, they have the Bernie signs.
I want to make it clear that any person who is a Bernie Sanders supporter, please do not in any way, shape, or form engage in violence. That is absolutely not what this campaign is about. But you know, you got some people out there who are not really Sanders supporters, you know, people who just, they think it's cool to create violence and create havoc and get their picture in the newspaper.
I condemned it when Donald Trump was inciting it and congratulating people who were engaging in it. I condemn it by those who are taking violent protests to physical assault against Donald Trump. This has to end. He set a very bad example. He created an environment in which it seemed to be acceptable for someone running for president to be inciting violence, to be encouraging his supporters. Now we're seeing people who are against him responding in kind. It should all stop. It is not acceptable.
Get back to the political panel. We'll discuss this in a moment, but we have our first key race alert of the night so far. The first numbers very, very early coming in right now. Clearly no projection in Puerto Rico, but take a look at Hillary Clinton. She has 473 votes so far. Bernie Sanders 201. Very early, she has 70.2% to his 29.8%. She's up by 272 votes. You can see right there, still very, very early. We're about to get a whole lot more numbers. We'll update you on that. But I want to bring back Bill Press and Donna Brazile, Scotty Nell Hughes. Hillary Rosen is joining us as well, one of our contributors. Scotty, let me start with you because, as you know, Donald Trump criticized these protesters. You just heard him saying they were thugs planted by Democrats. He blames Bernie Sanders. He offered no evidence. What's your response to that?
Well, because you can't sit there. All we're seeing right now is floating around amongst the internet, just flyers and rumors. You can't. It's very hard to sit there and back that up. We did find that originally a lot of the rallies, especially in the very beginning in California, the initial idea was organized by those within the unions, but they obviously did not encourage the violence that happened. We also saw that post-Chicago and the rally that happened in Chicago, you had an email that went out from MoveOn.org claiming that they were successful in shutting down the Trump rally that night. So you have had very liberal progressive groups that have in the past sat there and claimed victory when some of these big riots have happened. But I think here's what we need to talk about, though, is while, yes, you're looking at the numbers right now, you look at California. While outside of California, I think this helps Republicans. Inside California, voter registration numbers, you have had the highest voter registration, near 18 million, 650,000 in the last 45 days. 76% of those folks are registering as Democrats. So this is actually possibly helping the Democrat Party in turning out votes when it comes to Tuesday.
Hillary, what's the political fallout from the violence we've seen by these anti-Donald Trump protesters? What's the political fallout for Democrats?
Well, I do think that there's an enormous amount of passion that we haven't seen, you know, really almost since, you know, the George Wallace days of campaigns. I want to bring this to a bigger level, which is we are seeing, you know, my kids are seeing fights in their high school, you know, with people saying you can't trust federal judges, but to do things fairly. I do worry that what Donald Trump is doing is lowering the level of political discourse in a way that's infecting so many different places in society. I think that Democrats are united that this is not the America that we want to live in, and I think that it's not going to help Donald Trump going forward. Does it energize a certain group of his supporters and folks on the left to be more aggressive? Maybe it does, but that's not the politics that I, you know, have passion about.
All right, everyone stand by because we're getting the first trickle of votes coming in from Puerto Rico from the Democratic presidential primary. You can see on the screen right now, very, very early, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. They're watching the results as they come in from Puerto Rico. Up next, we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders' strategy with one of his supporters, who was a former member of Bill Clinton's cabinet. So why is he not supporting Hillary Clinton this time around? Also, standing by for more results from Puerto Rico. We'll be right back.